All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders, the elder bishops, the great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, to the men on the highways and byways that are pushing out this word in truth and sincerity, and to the remnant men, women, and children of the elect. To you all, I say Shalom. My name is Ahmawan Ahyash. I'm back with another lesson through the power and the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Lord willing, this is edifying. And this will be something quick because I've been getting notifications, about, these, wars and rumors of wars, man. You know what I'm saying? And, as the spiritual weathermen, we're here to report on these things and just bring it out through the spirit, man, and measure the times as we always do. All right, through the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shai. Man, we ought to report what we see. We ought to report what we see. We ought to prophesy. We ought to warn and teach the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, and this is just another lesson through the spirit, man, to do so. So jump right into it. CNN.com. Venezuela mobilizes its militia after U.S. says it's deploying military forces to waters around Latin America. All right, so U.S. threatened to go ahead and, surround Latin America, all right, with its military. And Venezuela saying, hey, we'll mobilize and we'll be prepared. We'll be ready for it. All right, it says Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced on Monday that deployment of 4.5 million militiamen throughout the country, assuring that no empire will touch the sacred soil of Venezuela. After the United States doubled the reward for information leading to his arrest and increased the number of troops sailing around Latin America and in the Caribbean. All right, so Maduro's a wanted man by America, okay, because of the drug trafficking, okay, that he's been known for. All right, but America's a bunch of goddamn hypocrites because there's no bigger drug dealer than Esau Edom. All right, so he's the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment, and this is the biggest hypocrite known to man. All right, so it says last week the U.S. government confirmed to CNN that it had ordered naval movements in the region to contain the threat from drug trafficking groups. On Monday, Reuters reported that 3 U.S. Navy destroyers and some 4,000 military personnel would arrive at the edge of Venezuela's territorial waters within the next 36 hours. The 4,000 military troops, that's a sizable, that's a decent amount of military. All right, so this is somewhat serious, man. It said on Tuesday, however, a U.S. Department of Defense official said there are currently no U.S. ships in the area, nor have the ships received orders to head there. Venezuelan territory has almost 2,500 miles of coastline, right? And so we'll see where this is headed. We'll see where this goes. All right, not to say this is, the start of World War III, but, when it comes to war, man, and especially something leading up to World War III, there will be smaller wars, smaller issues, proxy wars that will lead into World War III. Okay, and we're seeing that out there right now with Ukraine and Russia, to a degree with Iran and Israel. These are the wars that are going to lead to World War III. All right, and these little proxy wars, and again, because Venezuela is not one of those nations mentioned in the big prophetic scriptures when it comes to the nukes that are going to be sent over here from the other side of the world, right? But all of this is a lead up to it, because the scriptures say wars and rumors of wars. It's not just mentioning, just the scriptures just don't speak of one big war. All right, it speaks of wars plural and rumors of wars. Okay, and these are the rumors of wars that we're seeing and hearing about. All right. It says, let me see. This week, I'm going to activate a special plan to guarantee coverage with more than 4.5 million militiamen throughout the national territory. Militias prepared, activated, and armed, Maduro said during a televised meeting with the country's governors and mayors. So they're ready, man. Venezuela's ready. You want to come try to surround our borders? We're going to be waiting for you. That's basically what they're saying. All right. The president described the extravagant, bizarre, and outlandish U.S. threats as rotten rehashes without specifying what he was referring to. Right. And hey, what doesn't matter what they were referring to. These are the wars and the rumors of war. This is what the Lord put the spirit on these presidents to do. Right? It says we defend our seas, our skies, and our lands. We liberated them. We guard and patrol them. No empire will touch the sacred soil of Venezuela. So they talking hot. Maduro's talking hot. You come over here, we waiting for you. You're not gonna come over here and bully us. It says no empire, and that empire is talking to Babylon. What other empire? Babylon the Great, man. All right. No empire will touch the sacred soul of Venezuela, nor should it touch the sacred soul of South America, he emphasized in his speech. All right. Let me see if there's any more in here. It says she also iterated the U.S. government's position that Maduro is not a legitimate president. Right? They always do that when they demonize somebody, and not to take up for Maduro or any other president, because all of these motherfuckers is wicked, man. All right, evil, wicked rulers. That the Lord is gonna take out of these, but the Lord is gonna bring judgment upon all these people, man. It says the Venezuelan government rejected Washington's accusations of drug trafficking, saying in a statement that the U.S. was resorting to threats and defamation. Yeah, well, they're not defaming you because, there's a lot of drugs and corruption that comes from these nations, with Venezuela being one of them. But Esau, Edom, and Babylon the Great is another one. Again, there's no bigger drug dealer than the so-called white man. So it is what it is, right? They talking hot. It says missiles and rifles for the working class to defend our homeland, right? Because they're going to Venezuela. They're going to defend. They're going to defend they, what they have. They're not just going to let America come and run them over. Okay. It says a few weeks ago, the Trump administration doubled the reward to $50 million. They got a $50 million bounty on this man's head, leading to the arrest. And they say the arrest, you know what I'm saying? Not necessarily a bounty, but the $50 million leading to the information leading to his arrest. Speaking of Maduro, whom it described as one of the world's largest drug traffickers, head of the cartel of the Suns, and threat to U.S. national security. So there you have it, man. All right. This is what's going on. I want to read this other article, right? Because again, it's about the wars and the rumors of wars. This is from NPR.org. It says, after meeting Putin, Trump changes his position on the need for a ceasefire. All right, so Trump went over to Ukraine to negotiate a ceasefire with Ukraine and Russia. Okay, and this is what it says. It says, when President Trump was flying to Alaska for his summit with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, Trump said the main goal was a ceasefire. He said he'd be disappointed if it didn't happen and warned of severe consequences. All right, so when you talk about severe consequences, that's, that's war talk. Like if y'all don't end up in a ceasefire or some sort of peace agreement, this is going to get nasty and ugly. Right, severe consequences. It says, but surely after meeting Putin, Trump reversed himself and said a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine war wasn't critical. He wrote on social media that it was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement. All right, which would end the war and not a mere ceasefire agreement, which oftentimes do not hold up. Right, and we saw that just recently with Ukraine, not Ukraine, Iran and Israel, because they had a ceasefire agreement, and Israel let off some shots, let off some final warning shots after. Right, that just happened a few months ago. So Trump is actually right by saying that. Ceasefire agreements don't necessarily hold up all the time. They need a whole peace agreement. All right, that's how intense it is out there, over there in the Middle East, in that region. That's how intense it is. Anything else I want to get out of this? It says Trump's new position aligns him with Putin. Yeah, right, because we know eventually America and Russia is going to bump heads, right, and end up on totally opposite sides of the war. The war to end all wars, World War III. Trump's new position aligns him with Putin and puts him at odds with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who headed to the White House on Monday. Zelensky's last visit to the White House on February 28 descended into a heated dispute between Ukrainian leader and Trump with the cameras rolling. Trump told Zelensky that you don't have the cards right now and that the Ukrainian leader would have to make concessions with Russia to prevent the total destruction of his country. And that's the video that went viral online with Vice President J.D. Vance, and he was basically saying you should be thanking President Trump, this, that, and the third. And Trump was like, man, you don't hold the card. They was going back and forth, right? Which could all be very much staged. It's all part of the, the circus, the show. All right. But at the end of the day, there's still wars and rumors of war. And that's what's important. All right. Seeing these things come to pass, watching the prophecies come to pass. That's what's important. Let me see. That's really all I wanted to get from this. All right. Let me see. It says, let me read this. It says, when Trump began pushing for a ceasefire several months ago, all right, the Ukrainians endorsed the move. Putin did not, and Trump became openly critical, and grew increasingly frustrated to the point of threatening additional sanctions. Because Trump is an asshole. Trump is like, you gotta be, if he his pride, he got too much pride, man. He's one of them proud devils. You don't fully agree with him, he ain't gonna be happy, right? He got that dictator spirit on him, and he got that how dare you disagree with me spirit on him, right? It says Putin did not. Trump became openly critical and grew increasingly frustrated to the point of threatening additional sanctions. But Putin and Trump appeared to be on excellent terms at Friday's summit. While they didn't announce any breakthroughs, Trump now looks to be on Putin's side when it comes to the critical question of whether to pursue an immediate ceasefire versus a comprehensive peace agreement, which would take lengthy negotiations. All right, so this is where we're at. This is where we're at when it comes to prophecy. This is when it comes when it comes to the state of these nations who will end up in a war with each other, right? These are the major players. Russia and the United States. These are the major players when it comes to World War III. All right, and they're in the news, going back and forth, and we're gonna see this whole thing rear its ugly head. Job 20:5. Since I mentioned it earlier in the lesson, it says that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. Right, the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment, and its triumphing is short. Esau's had rulership for some time now, but it's actually a short period of time according to Yahawashi. It seems long for us because we've been under this man for hundreds of years, but that ain't nothing to the Lord. Right, and the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. This is the biggest hypocrite known to man. He's a wicked and he's a hypocrite. Right, and no one can be described or identified as that man, more than the so-called white man. Period, point blank, man. All right, it says, though his excellent mount up to the heavens and has his head reached into the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung, which it says, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him all shall say, where is he? Okay, so this man is known to be in rulership, so he's known for his power and his might. And it's gonna come a time where he shall perish like his own tongue, and these other nations are gonna be like, what happened to Esau, Edom? What happened to the so-called white man? right? He's not going to have any purpose in the earth very soon, okay? Because he was created to be the wicked. He was created to be just that. And when the time comes, the Lord is not going to need the wicked for his purpose anymore. All right. Proverbs 16:4 says, the Lord have made all things for himself, yet even the wicked for the day of evil. Right. So once, all the evil is removed out of the earth, he's not going to need Esau Edom, because the Lord created him to be just that. And he's doing a damn good job of fulfilling it. I'll tell you that. Right. But there's going to come a time where that's not needed. All right. Let me close out with this, since that's what this lesson is about. Matthew 24:6, it says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. All right, so wars and rumors of war, this is what's on the table. This is what's in the news. This is the spirit that the Lord has on these nations and these presidents. All right, so this is what we're waiting for. We're looking towards this thing to really get intense, okay? And at certain different parts, it does get intense. All right, it dies down a little, but then it gets, it gets it, because again, there's more prophecies that have to come to pass before World War III is fully takes place. All right, so we understand that the energy of these wars. They go up, they go down. It's hot at one point, then it's kind of like low. It goes, you know what I mean? So. But we understand there's more prophecy that's to come to pass. It says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. And we see all of this type of stuff, all of this activity that's written in the scriptures we're seeing out here in this world. All right. So, hey, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise. All right. It says, verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Okay. These are the beginning of sorrows. When we see these nations shall rise against nation, famines, earthquakes in diverse places, pestilence, and these are the beginning of sorrows, because the Lord got much more judgment that's going to take place in the earth. All right, so with that, I'm going to leave it there. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Makakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders, the elder bishops, the great Millstone, who rule well. Peace and salutations to your elect. Shalom.